Hi there folks, and welcome to episode number 5 for this motion matching for Unity / gameplay walkthrough tutorial. We're going to continue our work on this cowboy and his gun. So last, bunch of episodes we set up the basic motion matching, we calibrated it and tweaked it a fair bit. And we started the state machine logic for the gameplay logic, and we also equipped this gun on his hip, and it can now be switched between his hands. So this episode I'm going to set up some combat. Now we might not get through the whole lot, but I'm going to change the state machine so we can transition into a combat state. He'll draw his weapon and he'll go into a combat idle. We might not have time to set up the full combat locomotion, but you'll get the idea of how we can do stances with motion matching for Unity. So first things first, let's, one thing I wanted to do is I found an animation set that I can use. Unfortunately, there was no specific revolver one, so I'm using the Pistol Anim Set Pro from Kubald. It's a very solid set, very cleaned up, so it all matches together. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check that out, but it's not necessary. You'll get the idea of how we can change stances just from watching this tutorial. But that's what I'm going to use for this. Unfortunately, of course, it's right-handed, so I'm going to actually switch the gun over to the right thigh and the right hand, just so that we can actually use it with these animations. I suppose I could mirror them all, but I don't want to waste my time with that. That's going to take a lot of time for the sake of having a left-handed character. So I'm just going to change on the character itself his equip slot to hand equip R and his stow slot to stow thigh right. I actually had to go and change the slot orientation so the thigh one would work, but you've seen that how to do that in the previous tutorials. So now when I load, there we go, the gun is on the right thigh. Cool. All right, so that's ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a new animation module for the combat animations. So we right click, we go create MXM core modules, and we choose animation module, and I'm going to call this animodule combat. Maybe let's change that to pistol combat, because later in the game we might add a rifle, for example. I probably won't for the sake of this tutorial, because it'll be the same as adding the pistol, but just hypothetically. So if we go to modules, we want to make sure it has the same modules as the other ones, so these ones here. Just drag that in, the config module, the event naming module, and the tag module, so that we're all using the same configuration between all of our sets here. Next, we're going to go to the idle sets, and I'm only going to set up the idle set first, and then we'll worry about locomotion. So if I go to my animations here, I've got this pistol idle, and I'll drag that in there, and there is our pistol idle animation, and we can see it here, and we've got the timeline. So what we need to do for stances in motion matching for Unity is we need to use a tagging system to separate the animations. And you can see I've got require tags and favor tags here, but obviously I don't have any defined. They're just tag 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to define a tag for pistol combat. And I'll explain the difference between require and favor. So let's go first to our tag module. So this is where we can actually name our tags. So we won't worry about user tags, and we won't worry about favor tags. The one we're looking for is require tags, and I'm going to say this one is pistol. You know what? I might add another tag. Actually, I might make first one crouch. That's couch, not crouch. Crouch. We'll do crouch later. And I'm going to add pistol. So the idea with tags is you can actually have multiple tags on any one animation. And specifically with the require tags, the whatever tag you're currently requiring at runtime in your game, only animations with those tags will play. So it's a way to explicitly split up your animation set. While I have this pistol animation active, the motion matching system can only play animations that are tagged with pistol. So now if I go to my idle set here and I change the require tag to pistol, now when I pre-process the data, all the animation poses within this idle set are going to be tagged with pistol. Now if you have crouching with pistol, you'd tag it with both. So you can actually tag both here. You can see it's got mixed, and I've tagged both. So now when, if I activated both crouch and pistol tags at the same time, it would only play animations with both of those tags. And this is how you can effectively make your states with motion matching, even though there aren't technically any states. And it's also more performant because this is actually going to split up the data. The motion matching system's not stupid. It's not going to search through all the animation poses. It's only going to search through the poses with the tags. So it's also a way to break up your animation data and reduce the runtime cost. So I've actually tagged that already. I'm not going to add any secondary animations in this case. So secondary animations, if you don't know, are kind of like, you know, the character looks around every now and again. So you basically have your main idle and then you have your other idles. Maybe he checks his gun, maybe he looks around, and every now and again, you know, between min and max loops of your base idle, it will play those animations. Transition animations, for those who don't know, is any animation that you can use to transition into idle. So it might be a crouch to idle. So any animation that ends in this, so any transition that ends in this, you can chuck it in here. So if you're going from crouch to idle and you suddenly trigger a change in tag that changes the actual idle, it might actually play that crouch to the idle instead of just switching abruptly and blending to idle. But we're not going to worry about that just yet. We have this set up with pistol, and that's all we really need just to test this out. So we've got here, and we've got an idle set. We're not going to add any composites just yet. We just want to be able to switch into that idle. So I'm going to go to my pre-processed data, and I'm going to add that pistol combat module right there. So it's going to contain all of that stuff, and we'll just check that we're using the same tag module. Yeah, we got pistol and crouch. Crouch I've just left for later. Let's go back to here. Pre-processed data. Now I should be able to pre-process this data and it should be all fine. Let me just get the path here that I want to save it to, and we'll pre-process that. And I'll override my MXM anim data. And off it goes, and it pre-processes. Okay, so now that that is done, we still need to do something before that animation is going to play. Like obviously I haven't done any controls. If we play, it's just going to, you know, play as it was before. Why does it do this? We're never going to see that idle because we're never activating that tag. So let's now activate that tag. I'm going to go to behaviors and I'm going to open my graph. So this is my state machine graph in Bolt that I've been working on, and we've already set up general, where we can go between general, locomotion, and sprinting. And now if I go back, I want to be able to go into a combat state. So there's a few things we're going to need to do here. First, we need to actually trigger that transition. What button are we going to do? So let's go events, let's create an event, input, get button input, and I'm actually going to have to create an event. So we'll go to edit, project settings, input manager. Yes, I am still using the old input manager. We will worry about the new one later. I'm going to use this fire one, and I'm just going to say toggle combat. And that can be, I'm going to make that tab. And I won't have an alternative. That will do for now. Toggle combat is the one we are going to use. Let me just copy that. Now I can just chuck that in there. So when we press toggle combat, it can just be down. We will trigger this transition, and same thing here. In fact, I'm going to just copy it. Oh no, I've done this again. It's the only way I know how to get rid of that when it gets stuck is to just click on some things until it goes away. So I'll copy that one again. So every time oh, here it is, delete. Every time we hit that toggle combat button, it's going to switch between the two. And we have our combat state. Now remember, as I'd set up before in locomotion, we have this init, and then it goes automatically. So it just runs some logic, and then it goes straight to the general. And that's something that we can do so we can set up the combat state regardless of which part of the combat state we're going into. So I'm going to just do that there, and I'm going to create another state, create a flow state, and we'll say pistol. And you know, you'll probably do some logic, or what weapon am I using, and you'll pick a different state. But you know, we're just going to transition to here. Now I believe I can just use this. So init done, I'm going to use as my custom event to transition. So once it's done initializing, that state's just used to do one thing. It's going to trigger that, and let me just copy that from here. So we just trigger init done. So I'm still using it as a placeholder even here, but we're probably going to change that later. So go back to combat, and we're just init done. All right, so that's all set up for, you know, later use. But we are going to actually have to do some stuff in there. So in the pistol state, what are we going to do exactly? We're not actually going to do anything. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, we do need to call some things. The main thing we need to do is change the require tag. So let's just do that, hey? So in here, let's call something on our MXM animator dot set require tag. We might actually just go add require tag. No, we'll go set required tag, and we'll give it a tag name. And the tag name is pistol. And then we will do that. We don't need an update or exit on this one. So it's going to just add that require tag. Should I clear the tags? I might just add the require tag. That way, if we're already crouching, it's going to go straight into that. So mxm animator dot add require tag, and we will pass in pistol. Now we're going to have to change things with the trajectory generator and stuff, but for now we just want to test that this is working. I need to get a variable, so get variable, so get object variable, and we already set it up, mxm animator, so pass that into there. Okay, so that should all be set up. For now we're not really doing anything in here, but that's fine, because we might add that later. We probably need a locomotion speed ramp, but we need to set up the locomotion first for that. Okay, so that should all be working now. Let's hit play and see what happens. Okay, so if I press tab, nothing happens. Okay, the graph is not running. Now I should have callbacks to enable them. Okay, interesting. My callbacks have somehow been deleted. Maybe that was when I updated Unity or something. So I'm just going to have to set those back up. So from behavior, I had state machine enabled. So we enable the state machine. And there was also player locomotion speed ramp enable. What else needs enabling? Yeah, those two needed enabling. Okay, so that's fixed. I don't know why those became empty. Who knows? So that should work now, hopefully. What is this exception I keep getting? No, I'm not sure. It's not related to MXM. Okay. Let's just check our state graph. Okay, our state graph is going good. If we hold down shift and we sprint, and if we press tab, we go to combat. And there we are in our combat state, which is cool. Now, I haven't done anything when we exit, so we're stuck in that combat state and we're doing nothing. So it's working. That's all we wanted to check there. A few things we should do when we exit as well. So let's go in our graph and in our combat state, pistol. So in here, when we exit this state on exit, we're going to remove tag. So MXM animator, remove required tag, and we'll remove that pistol tag. And we need to get variable, so get object variable, and again the MXM animator, and we'll plug that in as the target for that. Okay, cool. Hit play. Now I should be able to switch back. So I hit tab, I go into combat, hit tab again, and I go out of combat, and we can run again, tab. Cool, that is all working. We need to equip the gun, so let's do that. So when we go into pistol mode, we are going to equip the gun. So we already have some objects. Let me see, do I have, oh gosh. Just delete that. Do I have the objects set up? So I've got locomotion, speed ramp, trajectory generator, and MXM animator. We also need our character inventory to do equipping. So I'm going to add another one. You know what? I'm not going to do it that way. I'm just going to call a function on the player logic. So we will get it here. So I'm just going to make a character inventory. Wait, what is it actually called? Character inventory edit script. It is under a namespace animation uprising. So I'll go back to player logic using animation uprising. Cool. Char inventory. We'll get that component. Char inventory equals transform dot parent dot get component. And it is character inventory. Okay. So public void equip pistol. Now yes, I could just go straight to the character inventory from the script, but there's probably going to be some other things. So from the visual scripting, but there's probably going to be some other things that I want to do when I equip a pistol, like trigger an animation, which we'll get to a bit later. So if char inventory dot equip, and we're just going to equip, you know what, we might just equip primary, call it equip primary, because I don't have this concept of different weapons at the moment in this game. So we'll equip, and we need to equip stow item ID dot primary main hand. Okay, so, and I'm also going to do a copy of this and call it stow primary. You know what, I might just call this equip and stow. There's no point in doing this primary stuff. So I'm going to just call stow here. Now, if you don't understand what's going on here, have a look at the previous tutorials. I went through these scripts and how they work. So yeah, so I don't need to set this anymore. I got this locomotion speed ramp. Why is that commented out? Uncomment that out. All right, we'll go back to here. And I've got my character inventory, primary main hand. Cool. And on enter, I'm simply going to call equip. Character inventory, equip, no. I need to redo the unit options. I've lost myself now. So I need to go to tools, bolt, update unit options, because that's new functions now. Now I should be able to go player logic dot equip. There we go. What state was this? Combat. Yep, equip. And I'm going to remove this tag, but I'm also going to say stow. Player logic dot stow. So when I enter, I equip. When I exit, I stow. So let's see if that works. Obviously, this is going to get a bit more complicated because we're going to equip and stow at the right time based on a equipping animation. So if I press tab, there we go, it's equipped. It's pretty cool. Gun's aiming a bit high, can fix that later. And when we stow, it goes back. All right, so now we've got our stances set up and it's actually equipping the gun. Of course, no transitions. We'll get into that a bit later. Let's now add some actual locomotion to the pistol. Now, obviously with pistol, it's strafing, so it's going to be very, very different. So we go to our pistol animation module and we're going to use blend spaces. Now I'm showing you a different method of using animations in MXM using cut clips. Now you're never going to get the same level of quality with cut clips. That's fine. We're just looking at what we can do with cut clips. Use it as much as possible. If you want, you can use Mechanim when you have cut clips and use motion matching when you have other stuff, but I'm going to show you the process so you can make the decision yourself. So we're going to create a blend space, and the first one I'm going to get is the pistol loop. This is a walk forward loop, and we'll start with that one. And you know what? I'm just going to do just that. Let's just do just that for now. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to have different blend spaces for the different directions, and we're going to use 4 blend spaces for each movement speed, and I'll explain that in a bit. Let's actually just get this first one set up properly. I'll open up this blend space, and you can see the blend space here, and the walk forward loop is in the middle. We're at strafe left 45 loop. Okay, so that one's going to go here. I'm going to hit preview. We'll save. Go to our scene so we can see what's going on here. So we're walking forward, and as I drag this to the left, it's strafing left 45, and we got all these in betweens. This is a problem with blend spaces that you can't really do much about except for author your animations differently. At certain points in your animations, you're going to get leg crossing. Yeah, it's really more about how you author your animations. If you're going to use blend space, this is the same with blend trees in Mechanim as well. It's no different. It's just the nature of blend spaces. Unfortunately, we can reduce it a little bit, but not completely. So, unless you're using procedural animation, but that's a different story altogether. All right, so we got forward walk loop. We need a right 45. Okay, I found them. There happens to be a set called missing diagonals, and indeed they were missing. So here they are. So I got right 45 here, and I'll drag that and I'll put that all the way over here. So now we can go in this. So each blend space that I'm going to do for walking is going to be, you know, north, south, east, and west. But on each blend space, I'm going to have, you know, your forward, so the main one, and then 45 left and 45 right of that. So you could set all of them up in the single blend space, and you have the forward there, the backward there, the left there, the right there, the you know, the 45s here. You could do that if you want, but you're going to get a lot of muddy blends in between. By separating it out into sets of 3 animations in each blend space, it's going to be fine. Now, before we go and do the others, we need to change the type to scatter X. So what this does is with motion matching, you can't really use blend spaces while you're motion matching. So this is kind of a fakery that's going on here. What we're doing is we're sampling poses at, you know, throughout this animation at different intervals along the axis that we specify here. If we do it in 3D, it'll scatter in, you know, in 2D, sorry, it'll scatter lots of points. It'll sample lots of points on this blend space. But if we go scatter X, it's only going to be on the X axis because that's the only one we're using. So we definitely want to be scatter X, and the scatter spacing 0.05. That's fine for now. So it's going to give us poses for all the in-betweens here, which is exactly what we want. Now we need to change the require tag down here to pistol. And yeah, so that's about it. I'm going to quickly go and make more blend spaces for the sections that we're missing. I need 2 inspectors here so I don't lose my stuff. Okay, so that's the first blend space. I'm going to lock that. Second blend space, I'll do the back, so it'll be strafe back. Or is it going to be called walk back? Yeah, it's called walk back. Walk backward. And that'll be strafe right 135. Oh, hang on, I need to open it. Let me just make them blend spaces first. I'll have strafe left will be one, and then strafe right will be another. Okay, so in the backward one, We've got walk backward. It's going to be strafe right. So many things here. Strafe right 135. And we're going to have strafe left, which is going to be in the extras that I'm missing. Strafe left 135. So walking backwards left, walking backwards right. Okay, cool. So that one is set up. We'll change that to scatter X as well, 0.05. Cool. And put the pistol tag on that one. And then we go to the left. Now, you don't have to do this, but I like to look at this one vertically because it's, you know, to the left, and this is going to be left 45. I'm trying to keep it north, south, east, west. It doesn't really matter. But in this case, I put it on scatter Y, so it's going to scatter along this axis. And 0.05. Okay, so that's pretty much done, except I do need to give it a tag of pistol. I'm going to pre-process that and do it without any starts and stops and see if we can actually just get the thing to move. And we'll change a few things from there. Go to my pre-processed data and we shall pre-process that. Okay, I'll exit the preview and we'll go back to our test level. Okay, so I hit tab, and so I've got strafing here. But we'll notice if we turn the gizmos on, you can see he's not stopping. It's because we don't have any stop animations and it kind of needs them. If we put the gizmos on, you can see the gizmos are turning. So like with strafing, you're always facing the same direction, but our gizmos are turning. And we don't want that. We want to change the strafe mode to do that. So to do that, we're going to go into our graph. Let's find that again. So character, behavior, and here's a graph. I'm actually going to get rid of this variable because we didn't end up needing it. So delete that. And when we go into combat, one thing that is just going to happen in combat is we are going to change that to, so we've got, let me think, get variable. Get object variable. This is going to be our trajectory generator this time. And I'm going to call on it trajectory generator dot, what is it? Trajectory, and we'll set the trajectory mode to strafe. Okay. You can just say strafing equals true, and that's a property that will do this for you. That's just based on legacy stuff because it used to just be normal and strafe, and then I added climb, so that's why it's an enumeration now. So that should now make it strafe, and we need to turn that off. So I'm going to copy that, and when we exit, we need to turn it off. So, So I'll paste that here and we shall turn it back to normal mode. All right, cool, let's play. Okay, so press tab. I need my gizmos so we can see this. Cowboy. So the reason why it just kind of moves is because I don't have starts and stops, so it can't really get to the idle animation. Why are the gizmos not drawing? I've unfurled that, that's why. Okay, so now you can see the, it's obviously not doing it properly, but the trajectory is, at least the arrows are always pointing in the direction of the camera. So we need to do something else now to make this work. We need to change something on the trajectory generator, on the MXM animator. So we've added require tags. Let's also change something on the MXM animator, and that is the angular error warping. So MXM animator dot angular. You know what? There's a bit too much script here for my liking. I'm actually going to go and just code a function that's going to turn us into strafe mode, and then we just call that a single function. So let's instead go to our behavior. What is it? This player logic script. And I'm going to just make a function called public void begin strafe. And in here, I'll just go m trajectory generator dot what is it? Trajectory mode equals trajectory move mode dot strafe. I'm also going to make one called public void end strafe. I'll copy that, and that will be dot normal. But we need to change the mode of the MXM animator. So mxm animator dot angular error warp type method or type equals angular error warp method. So we need to change it to trajectory facing. That's what you need to use for strafe. So current heading, it's like wherever you're running, it'll rotate the character so that you know any errors in the motion matching will be rotated over time. In this case, it's not to the last point, it's to the direction that the trajectory points are facing. So you need to change that to trajectory heading. We're probably going to change a whole bunch of things here. So for example, the amount, error warp rate, probably going to pump that up a bit. I'm not sure what's a good amount. Let's just make it 360 for now, 360F. And dot angular error warp threshold warp type dot. No, we'll leave that as is. So we're going to need to do the opposite in end strafe. We'll turn it back to trajectory, current heading. This was meant to be trajectory heading. Trajectory heading. And angular error warp rate, we need to change it back to whatever that is in our project. So where is it? Angular error options, warping. So I had it at 45. That's fine. We'll set it back to 45F. Okay. When we go back here, it's compiling, so it doesn't want to switch. All right, and we shall go to bolt, update unit options. Okay, cool. And now I'm going to forget about setting this trajectory mode here. I'm going to say just player logic dot end strafe. So now we just call a function, easy. And up here, I'll go player logic dot begin strafe. Now you could even simplify this more and just say begin combat and end combat, and then you could combine the equip, and you could do whatever you want here. I'm just doing it in this way because maybe I shall equip it and not strafe in some circumstance. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. The point is we needed to change those few things to make strafing work with motion matching. It's not just about adding the animations. Your trajectory has to be strafing, and then the angular error warping has to be in that correct mode. So if you have a look here, watch this as I change. So if I press tab, you can see it changed to trajectory heading and 360. So now, okay, that's not quite right. I've made a mistake there. This should not be trajectory heading, it should be trajectory facing. It's the way the trajectory is facing, not the way it's heading. And we'll hit play. Okay, we can run and do all sorts of fun stuff, and then we go tab. Now, obviously, one thing that we notice is that our movement is much slower when we're in this mode. We are going to add running though, so we're probably not going to change it yet until we've added the running. But you can see how we kind of get this blend space going. It's very rough. There's a lot more to do on this, don't worry. We need to add stats and stops. let's quickly add in the starts and stops. Once I've gotten the walking in, I'll do the running at like a time lapse because you'll understand how to do it already. So let's go back to our motion data, which is here. Now I'm going to go to composites and I'm going to call this walk, and we're going to add a new composite category called run. And I'm also going to add one called crouch. Now these are just placeholders. I'm only going to fill out one of them for now. So we got walk, and I'm going to click on this cog, and I'm going to make sure that under require we have pistol chosen. Now these are the default settings for all the animations that are going to be added to this category. So if I have it as pistol, when I add it, it's automatically going to be set here. So I'm going to go to my animations, and the first thing I want is a start for that animation. So where is my walk start? So walk forward, I'm going to have starts in as many different directions as possible now. Walk forward start. And we can actually just drag all of these in. We've got quite a few. I'll lock this, and we've got walk start 90, 180, and we've also got stops. I'll drag them in as well. Unfortunately, we don't have starts in the 45-degree angles, and that's a little bit annoying. It would have been nice, but it is what it is. Ideally, you do want starts and stops in the 45-degree angles. So we're probably going to have a walk backward start. Yes, there that is, and walk backward stop. Do we have walk left start and stops? Yes, we do. Actually, you know what? These are turning. These walk forward start 90. These are turning ones, so we actually don't want those because we're strafing here. So I'm just going to select that and click the minus. Yeah, delete, 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 delete. Walk forward, stop left foot, walk forward, stop right foot, backwards. So we got forward and back. Let's get the left. So strafe left, start and stop. And then we got strafe right, start, and left and right stop. Okay, so that's all the start and stops that come with this animation set. We might hack in some messy blends later on to smooth things out a bit. Now these settings extrapolate, that's pretty good. We do want to extrapolate. We probably are going to have to use these after anims, but let's just pre-process this and see if it does anything good. It's probably going to be a bit stuttery is my prediction. So we'll go to pre-process data and we'll pre-process override. Okay, so we should be able to have starts and stops to a degree, if not with a little bit of stuttering. So I'll press tab, and so we do get the start there, and we do get a stop. Okay, so that's working actually better than I thought. You can see there was a bit of a stutter there, particularly with the starts. So at the end of the start, it might stutter a bit in certain circumstances. See, so this is one of the little bit of annoying things. Is that the 45-degree angles, to start on a 45-degree, it takes a step left, and then it struggles to stop because it doesn't have a stop 45-degree. Not much we can really do about it just yet. We'll tackle that later. Okay, but we've got a general strafe going on here. Let's improve it a little bit. We'll go back to our module, and I'm going to go to all of these. So the starts particularly. The stops I'm going to leave with extrapolate on. The starts though, I'm going to add an after anim. So what comes after, logically, after a walk forward start? Well, a walk forward loop. I'm going to take this and chuck it in. So where's my walk forward loop? There's so many animations, it takes me a while to find. Walk forward loop, and chuck that in the after animation. And for this particular one, I generally only do this with starts, is I check runtime splicing. So let me explain what happens here, because it might not be clear, especially if you're new to MXM. I'll uncheck extrapolate as well. These after and before anims are for stealing trajectory from another animation for poses that are near the end or near the beginning of this animation. So for example, MXM, figures out a trajectory into the future 1 second from your animation poses. But when you're looking at poses that are within the last second of that animation, it's got no data to look at. So one way is to extrapolate that data to create that trajectory, and another way is to just steal it from another animation. Now, of course, walk forward starts with a idle, which is no trajectory in the past anyway, so it doesn't matter if there's no data there, we just leave that blank. But walk forward, but after is we have the loop, so we can steal it from there. Now what runtime splicing does is it will actually link these two animations together at runtime and play them as if they are one. And this helps reduce that stutter that I was talking about, and it's really important for support of cut clips with MXM. So for starts, I generally put that runtime splicing on. For the stops, I'm going to leave it, I'm going to turn off extrapolate, but I am going to pick a before animation, just so that past trajectory is nice. So with the walk forward stop, I'm going to chuck walk forward loop in the before animation. And we'll do the same for the next one. We can actually navigate forward by clicking this. I'll turn off extrapolate and we'll say walk forward loop. What happened there? Let me just click it here. Okay, walk forward loop, check it there. All right, cool. So now I'm going to do the same thing with all of these. I'll probably time lapse this. So it's walk forward backward, start. It's a start. So I'm going to chuck in an after anim and we'll go from there. One last thing before I start the time lapse. Do it without the runtime splicing, and only if you have a stutter, turn the runtime splicing on. Okay, don't do it if it's not necessary. Another way to overcome this problem of the stutter is to just tack on in your actual animations, tack a loop or two of the loop onto the end of your starts, and that problem is solved even better than this. It's actually ideal to do that, but obviously that's more work, so you can just use this method instead. All right, time lapse, begin. Okay, so there we have it. We have all of those before and after anims set up. For the starts, I've got runtime splicing on. Let's pre-process that and see how that goes. Okay, so we've got normal tab. All right, cool. So it looks like our starts and stops are working. Our trajectory and calibration could always use a little bit of work, of course, and that's fine. We'll worry about that later. Obviously, you can see that the red is struggling to conform to the green, and that's just because the green is too long and we're walking. Now, I think I'm going to leave the tutorial more or less here. I will add in the run animations. That's going to be on a time lapse because it's exactly the same as the walking animations. I might then tweak the trajectory a little bit for the end of the tutorial, and then we'll save anything more for later tutorials. But you can see now that with that runtime splicing, that stutter on the starts is gone, and that's really super important because who wants motion matching if it stutters? So there we go. Now I'm going to go through a time lapse of doing the same thing with run. I'm going to keep it in the same module and put them under here, and I'm also going to have more blend spaces, another 4 blend spaces for that run. You know what? I'm going to add the crouch one as well, and the only difference is in the crouch one is I'm going to have pistol and also crouch. Now, in the run one, I'm going to have pistol, and I'm actually going to have the favor tag run, because remember, we're going to use the locomotion speed ramp. We'll use favor tags for that. So just know that. I'm going to set those two up now. Time lapse, let's go. Okay, so I've added in the run animations, which is cool. And unfortunately, there's no run, start, and stop. They kind of match in with the normal start and stop, so you kind of use them both together. It's a bit kind of weird, but it's fine. You can see what happens here is when the trajectory generator gets long enough, it does switch over to the run, and we can get all these strafes. Ideally, you would have running transitions. It would be a bit more responsive, but we'll come up with a different way to sort that out. So for now, we have, you can see it does that, it takes a slow step. You ideally want to have run starts as well, but we'll try and do our best to kind of mitigate that with our configuration and settings. I actually think I've got my mouse inverted. It's really weird. But yeah, we can walk as well. I'm not using a keyboard, so it's hard to actually walk properly. But we need to set up an input profile and all of that, so we can do that. But anyway, this is a basic, how-to of how to set up the strafing and the combat stance, and I think that's done pretty well. We'll go further into it in the next tutorials. We'll look at layers. We'll do the actual equipping animation and so on. So if I press tab, we should be able to just go straight back into our normal running, and need to do something so that it flips it around. Yeah, we need to change the angular error warping when we change it so that it flips it around. We need to change the range so that it'll just flip around. All right, cool. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. We'll go deeper into the strafing, we'll polish it, we'll add more to it. And hopefully we can shoot something. That would be fun. All right, see you next time.